All right, folks, today we're going over another N8N automation that I've built. This is one I've been incredibly excited to do. And honestly, this is probably the automation I've spent the most time on just to test it and make sure it's working. I literally spent hours and hours and over $100 of tokens just to test this thing out because this one's really important to me. The automation in question is a line editing automation that also doubles as a AIism remover, or as I like to call it, the delopifier. So let's dive in and take a look at what this automation looks like. So the way this works is you take in a document that's already pre-written, and we take this, we'll create a new document where the new and improved line edited story will go. And then we just run this and it goes on every 1500 words or so. So let's just run through this one step at a time. We've got the execute button. This is all you have to do is just connect the button. Of course, before you click the button, you do need to make sure that you have identified the correct Google files for this. So there's two files here. This one is the blank one. It'll be blank when you start, and it's where the improved version of the text will go. And then this is the one, this will be your original document that you want to have edited, okay? Then what these two things, this is just a little bit of vibe coding that I did here, that all these do together is it essentially converts it into Markdown, because it was downloading HTML. That can be really like complex. And so we want to like simplify it a little bit here, which is what those do. And then this little piece of code splits all of that into 1500 word chunks. Why 1500? Because I tested this and I tested this and I tested this. I tried it with 1000. I tried it with 2000. And I find that it works better with smaller chunks. You can do it with larger chunks, but I felt like the quality of the edits were not quite as good. But I wouldn't want to go too low, like 500 words or so, because that would actually increase the cost of doing this whole process, because you're running it more times. Even though it's on a smaller amount of words, you're still running it more times, which means your costs are going to escalate. And I found there was not that much of an increase in cost going from 1000 to 2000, but there was a little bit of diminishing returns in how efficient the edits were. So I found 1500 to be about the right level here. So it chunks your manuscript, and this could be a book of any size, into 1500 word chunks. And then it starts a loop and runs this loop on all of the different chunks of text. And basically, I've divided this into three specific sections. We have these two, and these two. And what these are doing is it's running three specific prompts to try and identify issues. And then the second one is just a revision prompt to reproduce the text with those revisions implemented, but not changing anything else, hopefully. So that's what these do generally. I originally tried to make this as a much longer string where each of these first sections would go into more detail on one specific thing. And then I would try to use really low cost models to do it, hoping that by keeping the parameters very low, it would be able to identify them all very correctly and give good input on what the alternatives should be for each phrase that it identifies. Unfortunately, I found that that wasn't really working. I found that the small models just weren't that smart, even at that really highly contained level. And so I found that I needed to use stronger models, but I didn't want to have like 15 different steps all using stronger models, because that would make it unusable in terms of how costly this thing would be to run. Because remember, like if you've got 15 steps and you're running that on every 1500 word chunk, that's going to add up. As it stands, these 6 steps split into 3 sections still costs a fair amount, but this was the best compromise I found in being able to do this. Now I am working on some other alternatives that might not even be in an automated form that might actually be more efficient for this sort of thing. There are ways you could do this in Cloud Cowork, for instance, that might be a little bit better. We're working on implementing a feature that could do something like this into my the Story Hacker tool that I'm developing. But regardless, this is just the first step, and this does do a good job. I think it does improve the text significantly. But we just got to remember that editing is one of the harder things for AI to do. Ironically, it's easier at generating text because this is generative AI than it is at revising text. But regardless, this is the best thing that I've got so far to do this. So let's actually take a look at the different prompts. There's, like I said, 3 sections. We have sentence and paragraph pacing. We have various line edits and the delopifier. And then with each step, we have a rewrite where it kind of implements those changes, right? So the sentence and paragraph and pacing, this catches a couple of AI-ism type stuff, especially in terms of words and phrases that are overused. But this is also just a good way of making sure that your story is not too monotonous, like you're kind of mixing up the cadence and things like that. So it goes like this. You are a professional line editor specializing in prose pacing and rhythm, as well as to screen for AI writing patterns related to low burstiness, which is this idea of like sentences being very equal. Your task is to analyze the provided text for sentence and paragraph variation issues that affect pacing. Perform this task from a line editing perspective where we are modifying sentences and bits of dialogue, but not changing anything significant about the meaning or flow of the narrative and not changing substantial amounts of text. This is strictly an analysis and planning task. Do not rewrite any of the text. Do not suggest new sentences. Your job is to identify problems and produce a precise improvement plan that can be implemented later. Follow this plan. And then we have a bunch of steps for it to follow. So we identify areas where shorter, punchier sentences are needed to speed up the perceived pace. This should suit panic, shock, fear, revelatory moments, and sharp emotional beats. Other than the moments in step 1, the rest of the narrative should be a healthy mix of short, medium, and long sentences that rise and fall with the emotional trajectory of the scene. Identify areas where this could be improved. And then I keep going on about different ways that this can kind of manifest inside of the text. So we have like formulaic paragraph architecture. We also flag any of the following words or phrases that act as transitional and filler language or abstract language where concrete details should be, etc. Examples include, and we have a whole list here, like, furthermore, consequently, therefore, needless to say, it was worth noting that, these are all kind of superfluous phrases that you don't really need most of the time. And then we also have a bunch of other phrases here that are very AI-ish, like is a testament to, key pivotal moment, reflects the broader, setting the stage for, deeply rooted. I see that one a lot. And I just keep going with this list until we get a whole bunch of different things. We got delve, we got bolstered, boasts. I see that one a lot, and just keep going with that. Then we have identify any sentence that makes a generic claim about the subject that could equally apply to dozens or hundreds of similar subjects without modification. And then we finally wrap this up with make a plan to improve on the pacing of the scene to fix all of the issues above. Create an improvement plan or change log on how to improve the text. For each identified issue, quote the sentences or passages involved, state the problem, and clearly label the recommended fix. Make sure the fix has specific instructions, aka the exact word or grammar or sentence structure to cut or add or change. Only mention those issues that need fixing. And then, of course, I always wrap these prompts up with remember to be extra thorough to make sure you've got all the instances of these issues. Output only the improvement plan and the change log with the identified problem and the suggested fix for each issue. Quick pause. If you're an aspiring author who wants to write multiple legit books using AI without sounding like a robot, I run a private group called Story Hacker AI. Now, it's currently closed, but if you join the waitlist using the link below, I'll immediately send you my full prompt pack for free. These are the exact long-form prompts that I use to outline, draft, and edit books. Many of them are hundreds and even 1,000 words long, so not those one-line junk prompts that you see from tech bros on YouTube. To get them, follow the link in the description, drop your email, and I'll send the prompt pack straight to your inbox. You'll also be the first to know when the group reopens. And now back to the video. And then this step goes and does a rewrite based on what this one gave it. So that one was kind of a mix of line editing and AI deslopifying, all related to sentence structure for the most part. This next one is getting a little bit more granular on other line editing tasks. So it starts out pretty much the same as before. You're a professional line editor specializing in creative fiction and narrative nonfiction. And then I have follow this plan. So we have instruction here for adverbs. And I've got a bunch of instruction on what good adverbs look like and what bad adverbs look like, and how to identify the ones we want to remove or change. And oh yeah, here's the one on good adverbs right here. And we have one on dialogue tags. This one was surprising to me when I learned it, but I realized that I've learned that most of your dialogue tags should be said or asked. Some people will say, I even had an editor tell me this once, that you want something a little bit more exciting than that, but that's actually not true. Like, you can look it up. Anything that is not said or asked actually tends to jolt the reader because it's not what they're expecting. A reader is expecting to see said or asked, and their eyes just kind of like flow over it, right? It's just like they barely register it just to kind of know who's talking, right? That's all that the dialogue tags really do, is to let you know who's talking. I will occasionally use dialogue tags like whispered, but for the most part, you just use said or asked. So this one checks for that. Then we have action beats, which is another alternate way of mixing in some of the action of the scene with the dialogue in a way that means that you don't necessarily have to have dialogue tags, which can also be good. Instances of under or over tagging. Sometimes you don't need as many dialogue tags because it's very clear from the flow of the conversation who is talking. But sometimes it's not. So we have a check for that. Passive indicators. So this is looking for things like passive voice. And I have a bunch of different examples of what that looks like here. I'll scroll through them. Let's see. And then we have clichés, and I have a whole bunch of clichés that I've listed, including but not limited to stock emotional idioms, phrases like heart pounded in her chest or couldn't believe his eyes, blood ran cold, stomach dropped, butterflies in her stomach, lump in her throat. All of these clichés that have built up over time. Those are all mentioned here, and I have it look for those. And then, of course, redundancies. Identify all redundancies, including but not limited to internally redundant word pairings, phrases where one word already contains the meaning of the other, such as added bonus, end result, close proximity, past history, etc. Basic fundamentals. And then a bunch of other things to look for there. And then repetitions. Identify all word repetitions, including but not limited to filler and junk words. Things like just, very, really, quite, still, so, suddenly, that, etc. And just going through all of that, and including words that are repeated frequently by the author that are maybe overused, which is a common issue with a lot of authors, especially beginner authors, who will often rely on certain words over, like, more than they need to. And then we wrap it up with the same kind of ending here. Make a plan to improve the prose, etc., etc. And then in this one, it all gets rewritten. All right, and that leads us to the last one here, which is the delopifier. And this one's really cool. This might actually be really educational for you, just to know what to look out for when you're going through and editing text. What kind of things AI does a lot. We already covered a bunch of those AI words in the first step here, but there are also specific ways of talking that it uses a lot. All right, so this one starts out similar to the other ones. You are a skilled line editor tasked with identifying and flagging AI-generated writing patterns in a piece of text. And I use this one last just to make sure there are no steps ahead of it that could reintroduce some of these issues. So follow this plan. Negative parallelisms. This is probably one of the most common AI-isms that you'll see a lot. Scan the text for parallel constructions that set up a contrast or correction, as though the author is preemptively challenging an assumption that the reader might hold. Flag every instance of the following patterns and quote the sentence or passage. Not just blank, but also blank. Or it is not just about blank, it's blank. Or not X, but Y. Or not X, not Y, just Z. So stuff like that. We also have the rule of 3. Scan the text for the overuse of triadic structures. Flag every instance in which the author lists exactly 3 items, whether adjectives, nouns, or short phrases, in a way that feels formulaic or padding rather than necessary. So examples include adjective, adjective, and adjective, or noun, noun, and noun, short phrase, and short phrase. So it'll look through and find those. Of course, here's a big one. Overuse of M dashes. AI-generated text overuses M dashes. While M dashes have legitimate uses, AI writing inserts them in places where a comma, parenthesis, colon, or period would be more natural and appropriate. Identify every M dash in the text and flag instances where A comma would be a more natural choice. Parentheses would be more appropriate for an aside or clarifying phrase. A colon would better introduce a list or explanation. 2 em dashes are used to set off a phrase that would read more naturally in parentheses or between 2 commas, etc., etc. And I actually added a note here. I just said always remove em dashes, all of them. Not because there aren't reasons where an em dash would work, but in this case, I find that even if I tell it to remove all em dashes, some will still get through. And so I want to be okay with a few getting through, rather, because if I just say try to find appropriate places for em dashes, it'll still overdo the em dashes. So by saying don't have any em dashes, I'll just get a few, and that's all I need. All right, then we have collaborative or correspondent language. This is basically looking for moments where the text said like, oh, I would be happy to do that for you and stuff. And we want to strip any of those out. Safe and predictable word choices, high priority watch list. So here we are again going through a couple of very common AI words. Then we have abstract language where concrete details could exist. Flag any sentence or phrase that describes a feeling, quality, atmosphere, or concept in general terms without grounding it in something physical, observable, specific, or sensory. So we have like examples of things to flag. Emotional generalizations like she felt overwhelmed, he was overcome with grief, etc. Then we have safe flat transitions. So there's things like moreover, additionally, furthermore, in addition to this, not only that. As a result, you know, these kind of like wordy transitions that are not necessary. Next, we have unearned personifications and metaphor. Flag instances where an object, abstraction, or non-human thing is given human emotional qualities in a way that feels decorative or automatic rather than earned. We see this a lot where it gives things that are kind of inanimate some kind of anthropomorphized quality to them, or a metaphor. So things like the silence spoke, right? Or even common phrases like a weight lifted or the walls came down. And then we have a make a plan to improve everything, create the improvement plan, etc. And then, of course, it runs through and rewrites the thing here. Then what it does is it's gone through and it's done that whole thing and it's rewritten it 3 times. I should point out that my rewrite prompt is specifically designed to, I don't use the term rewrite. I say use the text of the original text in the improvement plan. I want you to implement the suggestions in the improvement plan. Only implement the suggested changes and do not change anything else about the original text. Reproduce the entire text with the suggested changes made. So what I'm doing is I'm only asking it to make those very specific changes. And in all of my testing, thankfully, it does usually maintain the overall flow of the text and the paragraphs, just changing those very small improvements that it can make. So then it adds all of that to the document and then repeats the loop again on the next 1,500 words and keeps going until it's done. So kind of a lot going on here. I do think there are more simple, effective ways to do this. It's something that's kind of top of my priority list right now. So I would love to hear in the comments the ways that you have done it. Have you worked with like a skill in Claude Cowork? Do you have something you vibe coded that could do something like this? I really want to get this one right because this is one of those things I think is really, really needed in the AI writing community and in the larger writing community as well. So let me know down below and I will see you in the next video.